"Pack your things, you don't belong here." The so-called HOA cop stood on his porch, flashing fake badges, threatening to drag him out. Neighbors watched in silence, but what none of them knew was that this man was no ordinary homeowner, and 6 Navy SEALs were already on their way. The knock on the door was sharp, demanding, and carried the weight of intimidation. When Marcus Hayes opened it, 2 men stood there in dark uniforms, patches stitched on their sleeves, but their eyes betrayed something hollow. They claimed to be from the Homeowners Association security force. Their voices were laced with arrogance as they shoved papers into his chest. "You don't belong in this neighborhood. You've got until sundown." Marcus didn't flinch. His frame was strong, his presence calm, but his silence spoke louder than any protest could. The men mistook his quiet for weakness. Behind them, neighbors peeked from windows, complicit in their silence. Some shook their heads but did nothing. Others smirked, believing the lie that Marcus was out of place. They didn't know his backstory. They didn't know that this quiet man had once worn a different uniform, camouflage soaked in sweat and sand. Years earlier, Marcus had been a decorated Navy SEAL. He had served in deserts where heat seared the skin, in oceans where waves crashed like thunder, in cities torn apart where every breath was a gamble. He had carried brothers through fire, whispered final prayers over comrades who never made it home. The scent of gunpowder, the sting of loss, the weight of sacrifice. Those memories never left him. When he finally returned, scarred but alive, he longed only for peace. He used his savings to buy a modest house in a quiet neighborhood. The walls smelled of fresh paint. The soil in the garden was still soft from where he planted roses for his late wife. This was not just a house. It was the sanctuary he had fought for. And now, 2 imposters stood on his porch, threatening to rip it away. The men grew bolder, raising their voices, drawing the attention of more neighbors. Some filmed on their phones, not to help, but to gawk. Marcus remained silent, his eyes steady. Inside, his heart ached at the familiar weight of injustice, the kind where truth was ignored and dignity trampled. But he had learned long ago that real strength does not roar. It waits, it endures. What the imposters didn't know was that Marcus was not alone. Years of service had built bonds stronger than blood. Though they lived scattered across the country, his SEAL brothers never left him. That morning he had sent a quiet message to them after sensing trouble with the HOA. He had not asked for help. He never did. But real brothers don't wait to be asked. Minutes later, the imposter's confidence began to crack. Down the street, 6 figures approached, broad-shouldered, purposeful, their steps in perfect rhythm. They wore no uniforms now, only jeans and plain shirts, but their presence was unmistakable. These were men who had moved through war zones together, men who had carried the weight of missions the world would never know. The crowd grew restless, whispering. The imposters sneered until the SEALs drew near. Then silence fell. One by one, the SEALs stepped onto Marcus's lawn, standing beside him without a word. No weapons, no threats, just the sheer weight of honor, loyalty, and unshakable brotherhood. The imposters' bravado evaporated. Their badges suddenly looked cheap, their lies exposed under the quiet judgment of real warriors. Marcus finally spoke, his voice low but resonant. "I've faced armies. You think 2 cowards with fake badges can scare me out of my own home?" The imposters faltered, their faces pale, their voices stammering excuses. The neighbors, once silent, now began to murmur in shame, realizing the truth. The SEALs didn't move toward the imposters. They didn't need to. Their silence was enough. Within minutes, the imposters fled, their false authority shattered. What remained was not chaos, but an almost sacred stillness. The SEALs placed hands on Marcus's shoulder, a silent vow that he would never stand alone. Neighbors who had hidden before now stepped out, heads lowered, some offering apologies, others standing in quiet respect. The roses in Marcus's garden swayed in the wind as if bowing to the moment. Later, the story would spread beyond the neighborhood. People would repeat his words. "Real strength doesn't roar, it stands, it endures." And another line etched itself into memory. "True brothers don't need to be called. They already know when to come." Marcus never sought revenge. He did not gloat. He simply returned to his porch, sat in the chair where his wife once read to him, and breathed the peace he had fought for. His silence remained his greatest power. Iconic quotes from the story, "I've faced armies." You think two cowards with fake badges can scare me out of my own home? Real strength doesn't roar. It stands. It endures. True brothers don't need to be called. They already know when to come. This story reminds us that dignity cannot be stolen, and brotherhood is stronger than fear. Silent courage often speaks louder than the noisiest lies. Where are you watching from? Do you believe true strength is shown in silence or in words? Share your thoughts below, and subscribe for more cinematic stories that honor silent heroes and unseen battles.